أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وأهله وأصحابه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Asha Ahmed and I'm hosting your show on Healthy Minds, and this week our guest needs no introduction. We're talking about mental wellness in teenagers, and she is just the right person to talk to us about that. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
That's such a good introduction. You've
Thank
done all
you.
the work. But thank you.
ahead.
My name is Nimo Jamal, and I'm a psychotherapist. And today we're trying to explore mental health with teenagers and adolescents. Just trying to channel from being children to being adults, and how that experience is like mentally and physically and everything else in between.
Right. So
Yeah.
then who's a teenager?
So a teenager, I'd say specifically, it's just a child who is growing to be an adult and who is transitioning through the process by, officially going through the physical changes, the emotional changes, and everything in between. There's, clear-cut difference for who a teenager is and who an adult is, right? Yeah, and there is a lot to explore in that, but yeah, that's how roughly I would define as a who. Definitely, there's expectation in everyone, clearly, through whichever role you're trying to play in the society, right? And I want to, before I answer your question, pick on something that you said, being part of who a teenager is. It's puberty and going through puberty, and puberty cannot also be specific in a sense. So the different kids or different human beings go through puberty differently at different ages, and in some sense the definition can be used to fit a certain criteria.
Tell me a bit about that. What does that mean exactly?
So it means that, let's say, some of the physical symptoms then that a teenager might start to experience as they transition from childhood is maybe like the physical symptoms that maybe girls get through. Some girls can get it when they're 6. Okay, 6 is too young, but around 8, 7, 8, and some girls could for the same way see the symptoms when they are 14, 15. So in as much as the mind grows the same way, but the body changes differently depending on the human being you are, and how your physical exactly how your hormones are, how your genes are, and so much is in the like I said earlier, criteria or in the cluster.
Right.
Yeah.
So then my question was, what are the expectations?
The expectations of the as long as a child is trying to change and it's actually changing to be an adult, there's expectations that are you're expected to start acting like an adult, basically, and you're expected to grow up and be reasonable and choose certain things a certain way, and you're expected to fit into the the role that the society creates for you as fast as possible, because you're actually now becoming an adult. And so this pressure can become so much because we forget that their brains are still growing the same way. And I mean, scientifically, our brain stops growing when we are 25 years old. So that is actually a crucial experience that children go through becoming. It's really brutal for a lot of kids to go through that, and then also the brain needs enough rest. You need enough good food, because I mean the body is completely changing now. If they're not getting the same resources, if they're still getting the same resources of when it comes to food and stuff like that, it's not enough for them. I mean, a lot of teenagers have very healthy appetites and stuff like that. So there is that. I mean, the expectations are variables but those are the major ones that I can tap into right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between roles that we assign teenagers and then expectations that we have on them. Tell me a bit about that.
So basically, there's this specific theory that I like to go back into that is done by Erik Erikson, and he talks about the stages of life and by default how we conform into certain stages and how our life experiences allow us to either thrive through and go to the next stage or make us stuck there, basically. So the specific stage that teenagers go through, he calls it identity formation versus role confusion. So at this stage, it's when most teenagers are trying to understand their role in the society and what is expected from them, what do they even expect from themselves, how they want to fit in with their peers and stuff like that. Or in that sense, if that is successful, they get to form a healthy identity. But to form that healthy identity, they need to have the time, they need to be able to resolve conflicts well, they need to be able to communicate effectively, they need to have a suitable environment for everything else. Yeah.
I think my next question would be, does at any point do roles and expectations collide in the sense that a teenager is growing up and maybe they're being raised by a single parent, and growing up, if it's a female, then now and the dad is raising them, then they're expected to be the mom of the house, taking on responsibilities. Or if it's a male child and the mom is the one raising them, they're expected to fit into the role of the man of the house, right? And it also, which comes with responsibilities, which comes with a certain mindset. At the other end, this teenager has an identity or is trying to form an identity. Who am I? What do I like? What do I do not like? What things excite me? So do we have situations where they clash?
I mean, definitely, yes. There are situations where they're, like, in any case, they're trying to. This is, I mean, in one, like you said, in one instance, the teenager has already been given responsibility, and they have pre-told their role in the family and in the house. Yeah. And mostly this happens with firstborns, right, where they actually, pick up certain roles, such as leadership and such as taking care of certain aspects inside the house. And then the other aspect is that the teenagers who do not precisely have such roles, and they're sort of struggling with understanding their role and finding out how they're going to survive through realizing their roles, right? And in some sense, I feel like it's sort of helpful for teenagers to take on certain responsibility in the house, which is really part of the reason why they are, they're growing, and they should be told to clean their room and organize themselves and be presentable and act accordingly in the society. That is part of the role of taking care of themselves. And when that extends to taking care of the siblings and stuff like that, it can be a hurdle, it can be overwhelming, but it can also build them and allow them to be more responsible in the society and more effective. But I mean, in this sense, it's understanding how they are handling that, and are they able to, still talk about issues that are overwhelming to them? Are they able to express their, tiredness? Are they able to express their, because in some instances they might not be able to express themselves nonetheless. So are they able to just pick up on the skills that are important for them? Yeah, that is the major question, actually.
Right. And I feel like there's I feel like as long as there is a sense of clarity, and the sense of this is a role, but a role is not necessarily your identity, and this is identity, this is you forming an identity, then they can be able to achieve both perfectly, right? Yeah. So again, do we have in the process of raising kids, raising teenagers, do we sometimes overstep our boundaries?
Definitely, a lot. And if you come back to look at how different teenagers are like going through issues, it's without being able to express themselves. I mean, this reminds me of statistics that was done by World Health Organization,
right,
that stated that 45% of teenagers go through mental health issues. And that's very alarming. That's a very high number. And if that is not worked through, it just translates into, a disturbed adult. And imagine a teenager who has...
and it's something it's something that we're going to discuss right after the break, inshallah, when we come back.